3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, you're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash. Here's today's comic. Look at that. Out of focus. Descender, number 1. By Jeff Lemire, Dustin Nguyen, or Nguyen, as I've been told is pronounced. Today, I'm joined by Stan, the man. As always, how you doing, Stan? Good to see you. What are you drinking today, huh? Iced tea. Our friends over across the pond don't appreciate iced tea, Stan. But today, it's National Iced Tea Day for everyone that didn't know. That was very refreshing. Back to Descender. I recently did a review on Ascender, the new comic by the same team, Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. Back when they had credits that says who wrote it, who illustrated it. They did this long story. I don't know how many issues this is. I want to say it goes in into the 30s. I was just getting into comics, I think, when this was finishing up its run. So I saw it and I was like, this looks really cool. I love sci-fi stories of this type. It kind of attracted me based on the covers and things that I saw. The name sounds really cool. It's right up my alley. But I didn't because it was such a big investment. At the time, Comicsgate was kind of a huge deal and everyone was pissed off at all these creators. Jeff Lemire had kind of stained his name a little bit. So I was like, I'm not going to mess with this Lemire guy, just whatever. I just moved on. No hate or anything, just was like, there's so many comics on the shelf, it's hard for you to grab your attention. Fast forward to today, or today's, the proverbial day, reading Ascender. Loved that comic. If you haven't watched that review, please do. It's a fantastic comic. I think it might even be better than I reviewed it. The more I think about that book, the more I love it. I read it initially and was like, this is pretty good. Put it down. About a month went by. I was planning on reviewing it, and then the second book came out, and I was like, I never even reviewed the first one. So I went back, skimmed it, and as I was skimming it to refresh myself with the book, I was like, this was really good. I enjoyed this. And then as I was doing the review and talking about all the things I enjoyed and what made the book good, I was realizing how good it was. And now I can't stop thinking about the book. Hence why I went back and I saw on Comixology, hey, guess what? You can read Descender, or at least the early parts of it, for free on Comixology Unlimited. I was like, let me do that. I'll at least read the first issue and see what the deal is. One of the things that caught me, I saw it somewhere else. I thought it was on the cover, but no. Anyways, there was some imagery that caught my eye. So let's get into this book and talk a little bit about what I liked or didn't like. Now, just like Ascender, this flows the same way. It's the same creative team, so it's seamless. If you have not read this book, if you're like me and are just jumping on Ascender and don't know anything about Ascender, that's fine. I'm discovering that reading this book, at least from what I know, Ascender has been approached that you don't need anything else. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that Jeff is writing that book, at least so far, to where you can tell there's a history, you can feel that there's something that's went on before it, but it's not something you need to know. He'll keep you abreast of the important things. However, if you do read this story, I suppose then you're going to have things that the next story makes sense more. Or not necessarily make sense more, but you're going to have essentially Easter eggs and goodies. So that being said, I also want to address anyone who has read this entire saga, who's going to come and watch my videos. And disclaimer, I have not read this. I'm coming in as a normie, so I'm not going to have the extensive... Really? Come on. It always happens. I guess... Do my reviews make you thirsty? It makes me thirsty, I guess. That's why I always have a big drink. But I'm the one doing the talking. Anyways, I talked about Ascender like it was hearkening back to Star Wars, and it was. There's a lot of feel that I love about Star Wars and what makes Star Wars such a grand fantasy epic. I think Lee Meyer was able to evoke in his story, at least the beginnings of that story. I don't know, it could derail and go off a cliff, but as of right now, just judging for where it's at, this book, which feels like it's a prequel, feels like Mass Effect. I don't know if you've ever played the Mass Effect games, but if you haven't and you like video, it's a fantastic. It's one of the probably the best sci-fi epic stories in a video game ever, in my opinion. It's absolutely fantastic. Ignore the fourth game, Andromeda, just the original three tells this great sci-fi story, convergence of races, an outer threat sort of thing. This book feels a lot more. It doesn't feel like Star Wars, at least not yet. And that's cool. I like that you can have the same world and same stories, but yet one feel a certain way, another feel another way. So that's one of the reasons I also like, just as I completely diverge off the rails, there's a sci-fi book series called The Expanse. Amazon is doing the show, Amazon Prime. It used to be on Sci-Fi and then canceled, and Amazon picked it up. You can watch the show there. The book series is better, but the same type of thing where it's just each book is a different type of story. Anyways, I'm totally diverging. Even looking here, if you've played Mass Effect, look at this. This is like the Citadel. It totally even looks like that. So if you have read Ascender, one of the first things you're going to notice is there's technology and robots everywhere. Ascender is not like that. We start off with one of the characters. We start off here. We're like in some sort of like mall scene or whatever. I could just hear Commander. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store in the station. If you've played the games, you'll know that reference. We see some characters bumping into each other. Why do I get the feeling like this is a person that's going to be an Ascender? Anyways, so then we cut the scene. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Just normal banter, people talking just in the street or whatever, and it's like, hey, excuse me, what are we going to do? Oh, no, look up above you. What the hell? And then we cut, and it's like, oh, you don't get to see what it is. And you're just like, but it is. This is one of the cool things that Lee Meyer does in his story is it keeps you interested, is he brings you to the point of like, okay, I'm hooking you in, I'm reeling you in, and then it's like, okay, now I'm going to go on to something else. You're like, oh, no, damn you, finish what you're telling me. This guy is waking up. I like this shot here, this reflection in the robot's face. It's like beep, beep, and the robot's like, excuse me, Dr. Kwan, but we have a priority one hail from the Galactic Council, blah, blah, shut that alarm off. So he's talking to the robot. Galactic Council's talking to him. He's like, what are you doing? Get out of bed. Go look up in the sky. And dun, dun, dun. Just like Mass Effect, the Reapers have come. And sorry if you don't get the Mass Effect. That's fine. You don't need to because this story has its own story. But if you do get Mass Effect, this is just like the Reapers. No. So they're like, what the hell? And they're explaining, that what's going on. This guy is apparently like the head, AI robotic scientist in the galaxy, and that's why they've called him in to help. And then look at this. Look at this. Massive. Just in comparison, this is the atmosphere of the planet. And it looks thin, of course, because you have the horizon, and in relative sense, it is thin. But an atmosphere is usually several miles high. I don't exactly know how high. I'm sure you can Google it, or some scientists in the channel or in the audience can point this out. But this thing, look at this. This is a robot that plays basketball with the Death Star. Yikes. So immediately you're just like, oh, damn. And this ship, we see this little ship flying. And because of the contrast, it's hard to, the camera doesn't like to focus on iPad. He's like, it's a machine. Okay, thanks, Dr. Obvious. It's a machine. But so they explain, no, it's not just a machine, Dr. Kwan, that's a robot. But I don't understand. You said there were others. And it's like, yep, there are 8 others, one for each of the Galactic Core worlds. And you're just like, oh, crap. So this immediately evoked like Independence Day. Not necessarily a great film, but it was a film that everyone, I think, wanted to like. And you may have liked it. It's just a really cheesy film. But it definitely, the concept of Independence Day is something that put butts in the seats in the theaters. Like, everyone went into Independence Day, whether you came out loving it or came out hating it, you were going in going, this is awesome. And similar parts here. I think Jeff Lemire has pulled a lot of the great concepts in like sci-fi and fantasy that are compelling and interesting, and he's using them for his own story, which I have no fault for. Some people get really uppity about like things being not original or copies of other things, but you know, Star Wars itself borrowed from other stories. It was heavily ripped off Akira Kurosawa, and it doesn't matter the originality. What matters is how you execute it and how you turn it your own. You know, like I'm a big lover of the film Avatar by James Cameron. Everyone's like, oh, it just dances with wolves in space. And I'm like, well, sort of yes, but Dances with Wolves was a valid story. It was a good drama and made sense. James Cameron took that concept and said, well, let's apply it with aliens instead of, anyways, I'm digressing like always. So they're looking at this as the face in the background of that robot. And its eyes are opening. They're like, oh, something's happening. And then they're like, oh, energy spiking. It's going to communicate. No. It's an attack. One little nitpick that I didn't really notice right away, and I don't think it matters because I think you just sort of needed to see this, but the artist here does not render this ship in relation to this robot. We saw how big this robot was. Remember, it was like towering above the atmosphere. This is like a little small little ship. This thing would be a speck compared to this. It'd be so small you probably wouldn't be able to see it. So I kind of forgive it because we do need to see it. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wait a second, this makes this look a lot smaller. This makes this more, feel like a Galactus-sized robot rather than something that's as big as the planet. So it's an attack. So the premier head scientist that they brought to figure things out just got wasted. Boom, Descender. And I love, this is such a simple, basic thing, but I love this. I love how the creative team brings you in, captures your imagination, what's going on. You don't really even know who these characters are. They're just getting brief introductions, boom, boom, immediately thrown into the action. Big hook scene, and then Descender. I don't know why I love this, but I do. Meanwhile, fast forward to a mining colony moon. We see a little boy waking up. Current population 1. 10 years later. The boy's like, hello? Hello? We just walk around, no one's around. Hello, Andy, Mom? Empty. Then he walks into a main chamber. Everyone's dead. Huh? Computer, are you alive? Affirmative. Hello, Tim21. How long have I been asleep? You have been asleep for over 10 years. His eyes just bug out. 10 years? And you immediately, as the audience, are like, what the hell's going on? And Andy and Mother? The humans you call Andy and Mother were among the colonists hit on undetected packet of cerium gas in the mines. Corrupted the atmosphere. Within minutes, they tried to... Computer, what was that? Computer, answer me. I need help. And then this turns into like a horror story. This is kids walking around. Imagine this. Being on this mining colony by yourself is like, what is that, a 10, 12-year-old boy? And then Lemire captures this excellently. And I mean, the art of Dustin Nguyen is fantastic too. I mean, obviously the collaboration is needed, but Lemire scripted this out to have these panels of just this exploring the space station silently, or colony base, I think is more accurate, but whatever. You know what I'm talking about. And he just keeps going, just to give you this feel of how large and immense it is and how empty it is. And in the hands of a lesser writer, this would have just been like filler junk pages, but I feel like it's necessary for the emotion as you're reading this going, whoa, is someone there? Huh? Fra. And then, oh, big reveal, the kid is a robot. And he's found, look at that. If you read Ascender, that should look very familiar to you. Bandit! So now we know why the kid's alive, why he was able to sleep for 10 years. He's a robot, and he's fixing the little dog robot thing. And he's like, I don't know where Andy or Mother is, but we'll find them. I promise. And I like how the little dog has got a little personality. He's like, arf, arf. The moon of Darishu 6, population 2. I thought that was a little quaint. And so they go outside, they're looking around, still empty. It says, 2 shuttles are gone, maybe. And so he's trying to investigate and try to figure out what happened. He goes to the computer and he sees that there's some news feed files that have been unopened in the 10 years he's been asleep. So he opens them up and we get all this news footage, which serves to tell the reader what happened. Because remember the storyline we left off with the big robot head attacking, we don't know. So it explains how these things all attacked simultaneously, very Independence Day style, obliterated all these cities and these core planets. And then they left. And then the surviving people that were, surviving, decided that these robots that came and attacked them, their own society being full of robots, they kind of went into this whole fear aggression mode. Basically like, oh shit, robots are going to be the death of us. So everyone turned into, this genocide towards robots. And it's very Matrix style. If you've ever seen the Animatrix, the animated companion to the Matrix, it's a DVD of 8 animated short stories. There's a 2-part short story in there. I forget the name of it, but it talks about basically how the Matrix started and how humanity warred with the machines and all this stuff. This evoked that as well. Again, a lot of, I don't necessarily know if they're homages or just liberal borrowing of cool ideas. I don't care. Like I said, if you can execute it well and make it your own, I'm fine with that. And everything you're borrowing from is cool shit anyway. So we get the boy just now horrified as he's seeing humanity exterminated all the machines. And that's him. He's a machine. So holy shit, what do you do if you're in his position? And we go back to the planet Nerada, and I thought this was interesting. Full circle. There's Dr. Nguyen. 10 years later, eep, eep, to an alarm. Speaking of the Matrix, Neo waking up to them. Anyways, I'm coming. And now the UGC the Galactic Council's there, confronts him. Are you Council? Are you guys lost? And no, I'm trying to record. Come on. So they're like, no, come with us. And he's just like, I don't understand why you want me. Like, I'm done with robotics and things like that. And they're asking him about his theory on his codex theory. And he's like, something tells me you guys already know. And, he's like, well, just humor us. This is a cool shot. It shows me that Dustin's pencils are really cool. I'd like to see his work colored in a different style. Not that I'm a hater of the watercolors. I think the watercolors work much better in like a more whimsical fantasy sense, but in a hard sci-fi, hard colors have been cool. That's just me. So there's a big dialogue talking about different things, of theories, and what scientists have discovered and all this stuff. And he finally gets to a point where he's like, well, despite the Harvester's complexity, all robots have a base machine codex. Much like us with our DNA, the digital fingerprint unique to every model of robot. So, sorry, lost my train of thought here. So they're still escorting him, and there's a lot of walking around, blibbity blab. It looks very boring and non-dynamic when I'm showing you this. Sitting, talking, right? Now, normal comics, this would be a critique, but I gotta tell you, this works here. Lee Meyer is very, very skilled at pacing, keeping the dialogue on point to just what's necessary. You get no sense at any point that Lee Meyer is just writing word balloons here because he likes to hear himself talk. This is not a Bendis comic, okay? This is not, the modern, postmodern bullshit of just blah, 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 Tom King or ... Just none of that. This is all important. Every piece of dialogue you see, like this page, is important to bring you, the reader, into the story and what's going on. And you're chomping at the bit because he's written the story to leave you hooked and wanting to know more. Remember earlier where we cut off after the attack, we thought this guy died. Now all of a sudden you're like, he's back? Oh shit. And you're blowing through all this because you're wanting, and this is the skill of a good writer. So as you're watching me go through these pages, you might be looking at this and go, this just looks dull and uninteresting to me. I could understand what you're saying, and my description of the book and the story is not nearly as entertaining as Lee Meyer's telling of it. So I didn't want you to be detracted because of my failings. And here we cut back to, before we cut to that, they're saying, he tells about the codex and, being basically DNA. And then she's explaining, yes, okay, so we found a link to their codex to one of our robots. And they're like, what? It's like a Tim, one of the Tim series that he created. One of the last things he ever created was the companion robots, which, Tim 21, right? And he's like, what? A Tim alive? Because they're saying, we found one. Where? And it's the Tim we know. It's on a mining colony. It's like a derelict mining colony on the outer rim of UG space. That's where we're headed now. Let's just hope we get there before someone else does. And then we see the bright, young, naive robot boy. And I like this. I like that this boy feels like he should. This is a robot probably designed to be a companion for a little boy or girl on a remote mining colony, right? So that these kids would be lonely. Or maybe if it's like the movie AI, it's, for parents that couldn't have kids. I don't know. But a companion robot, you wouldn't want it to be a little fucking brat, a little pissant, right? You want him to have all the positive characteristics that we love about children without the bad things, I would imagine. And so this boy is all bright and optimistic and naive and just full of wonder. And he's got his little dog, and it's also like charming. And that's the way I would imagine it would be. He doesn't get to be sour. His programming doesn't allow that. You were right, Bandit. It's a ship. I don't know who it is, Bandit, but someone must have heard our distress call. Ship's landing. And I hope so too, Bandit. But don't worry. You don't need to be. Arf, arf. Scared? And then dun dun dun. I'd be plenty scared if I were you. And then a bunch of ne'er-do-wells show up. A bunch of galactic scoundrels. To be continued. Dun dun. And so, obviously, that's a great cliffhanger moment. The UGC is trying to go and find this little robot. Could be the key to this whole mystery of who those giant robots were that annihilated humanity. And now these mercenaries or whoever these guys are going to presumably kidnap the kid, take him, I don't know, and cause all sorts of problems. I really liked this book. What's the next issue? No robots. Here's some sketches. Some concept sketches I thought were really cool, especially like the robot. You can tell that this story is really thought out and planned. I really liked this. I liked Ascender more and more, though I thought about it. It got me then to go back, and I said, I'm going to read Descender, at least number 1, just to get a compare and contrast and feel. And now I feel like I really just want to go back and read all of Descender and then dive into Ascender and just immerse myself in this world. It's very well done. I don't know why I had this negative thought about Lee Meyer in the past. I'm sure he probably said some dumb shit on Twitter 2 years ago, and that made me just go, oh, F you, buddy, and move on. But in that time, I have not heard a peep from him. I have not heard him do anything inappropriate. I have not heard him say anything in the past. I have not seen him write in comic books anything that is, any sort of social politics or social agenda, no propaganda. It's just good, solid storytelling. This is everything that I asked for in a comic book, and I love that Ascender is giving me what I wish Star Wars was giving me, and I like that this book is giving me something different, and it's giving me something that I liked in other sci-fi stories that I loved, and I can combine them together and just get this big melting pot. Very happy. Should be able to pick up Descender probably cheap in trades. If you're interested in this story, the very first one is all on Comixology Unlimited. You can read. I'm going to continue reading this. I'm going to dive into Ascender. Yeah, Jeff Lemire is solid. I'm going to start exploring more of his stuff. I have Gideon Falls. I picked it up on a discount on Comixology because I'd heard such good things about it, but I haven't read it yet. I don't know, because of the name. And now I'm going to go read that. And here's what we're talking about, kids. Make good comics that we want to read. Don't piss on your fans, and people will come and buy and enjoy. And we'll all be happy, and we'll all get to talk about how much we love comics, and we don't have to sit there and talk about drama. So hopefully this video was worthwhile to you. I tried to keep it short. I even re-recorded this because I had another one that was really long. And it's like, F it, I'm going to get this down. And I re-recorded it, and it still came out long. I'm very sorry. But there's so much meat and potatoes in these books and so much to talk about, and I just love it. So hopefully you stayed to the end, and this little cartoon that I do afterwards, and enjoy it. Until then, I'll see you next time. It's time for another JL8 webcomic, number 43 by Yale Stewart. Hey guys, how do you like my new suit? Mary, you just drew on your old one with a marker, which you're still holding. Scratch. So, yes? No? I feel like I'm getting mixed signals.